Welcome to my little makeshift video studio here. I just recently got some samples from a potential new vendor. I wanted to take a look and see if I could find a better quality clasp, maybe find a better bracelet, and also maybe take a look at some better tools. When I was in Hong Kong at the big trade show back in 2016, one of the specific things I was looking for were better bracelets and clasps, better metal parts. And just because I've gotten complaints about the clasps we've been using, sharp edges, they're not that fancy, what have you. So I got some samples today. I'm going to start out. This is the original double locking folding clasp that we've used on about 4 or 5 models. This is the expanding, ratcheting, a little bit nicer, fancy clasp. The complaints I've gotten about this one are that it's basically the same clasp you can find on any number of inexpensive Seiko divers. It's kind of pedestrian for that reason. They say, it's flimsy or whatever, but I like it. I think it works really well. It does its job. It securely fastens, very strong action. And as you can see, it's not that thick. It's pretty thin, and it sits nice on the wrist. And it's certainly not that long a clasp. The complaints I've gotten about this folding clasp are the edges and corners are a little bit sharp, and obviously it's a taller clasp, so it's thicker and a little bit bulkier on the wrist. And we've done some things to try to address that. We've made the links on either side of the clasp wedge-shaped so that they take up and they taper into the clasp a bit more. But those are the clasps we've been using. So I've got some potential replacements here. First up is this double locking folding clasp. So right away you can see that it's a much more substantial piece than the one we've been using. It's thicker, it's longer. I really like this chamfered edge. I think that's a nice touch. The walls of the clasp are thicker. So, it feels probably 3 times, if not at least double the weight of the clasp we're using. So it's got a really good feel to it. But thickness can be a drawback. This span underneath here is easily 4, maybe even 4.5 millimeters. This corner down here is also kind of pointed. I don't know that this arm is going to rest on your wrist. It may be that corner, but really well-made clasp. Action is nice. Closes securely. I like it. It's just, it's kind of big. It's kind of heavy and kind of thick. And, it's a nice clasp. If I was going to make another very thick, toolish diver, I may look to use something like this. So that's a maybe. They also sent me a sample of their ratcheting expansion clasp. So like ours, it's about the same length. It's about the same thickness. Theirs actually looks a little bit thinner because, again, it's got a very nice chamfered edge on it. Ours has this stepped surface. So if we wanted to, we could make it polished like we did on the Tropics clasp. Theirs is just a pretty straightforward flat surface. Our expansion is pretty simple and straightforward. This is a push button here. Closes pretty nicely. At the other end, it's a button release. Again, folding clasp, much like the folding clasp we're using. I like this 3-arm setup. Closes securely. And one of the nice things about this clasp that I'm going to show you here by comparison in a moment is it has spring bar attachments at both ends, which is unusual for this type of clasp, which has been around for a while, but this is sort of the style you see more often. Now, because there's no bracelet attached to it, it's a little bit hard to open at this end, but as you can see, this is not a spring bar attachment down here. This forked end would be permanently attached to a bracelet that would have a specially made short width link to attach here. So that's a permanent attachment for the bracelet. And then, again, pretty good secure mechanism keeping it shut. I'm not as crazy about the ratcheting. So this is actually not a button here on either side. It's actually a sliding mechanism, and it's a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't open and bounce back as easily as ours does. You have to get a good grip on it. If your hands are greasy or wet at all, that's going to be hard to do. And it doesn't shut quite as nicely as ours does. I think ours is just a better made clasp. I'll show you what the underside of it looks like so you can kind of get a sense for some of the finishing involved. I'm going to show you by comparison what ours looks like. So here's the two clasps side by side. Again, this is ours. It's got my NTH logo on there. Underneath, between the teeth, this is the surface is kind of given a satin metal finish. They both have it. I would actually give the edge slightly to them. There's a little bit nicer, more even finishing here underneath, but look at the teeth on theirs versus the teeth on ours. Ours, very sharply defined, evenly spaced. Theirs, not so much. The teeth look a little bit uneven. There's, I don't know what this is in here. Maybe that's some schmutz or something, but it doesn't look quite as nice. And if you can see the metal on ours is I don't know, it's pretty close. I would say just in general, I like the feel of ours. I like how ours closes easier than theirs. Yes, I can, terrible. So that's an easy pass for me. I'm going to say no to that one. I'm also looking at this clasp. This is kind of like a deployant clasp you might find on a strap, but this is for a bracelet, and it's got, trying to find a good spot here so you can focus on that. It's got the micro adjustment holes on both sides, which is kind of nice, but well finished, fairly thin, which is nice. Again, here it is next to our standard folding diver's clasp. So it's, a good thickness overall. And like I said, it's got these nice arrangement of micro adjustments. First off, it's a pretty secure clasp. I'm trying my best to pull it to see if I can defeat the locking mechanism. I can't. It feels really secure. Opens up pretty nicely. Closes pretty securely. A little bit difficult, actually, to get it shut, but that would probably be easier if there were a bracelet attached and it were on the wrist. So nice, secure locking mechanism, but here's a problem. It's got this sort of bounciness or seesaw action, and if you have this gap appearing while it's on your wrist, that's not attractive. So it's not bad. It looks unfinished underneath in pictures. I don't know how well you can make this out, but this again has that nice sort of a bead blasted kind of a satin finish underneath. It's a well-made piece. I wouldn't necessarily be angry if I got this on a bracelet, but this here, kind of not crazy about that. So that's probably also a pass. I thought I would ask them to send me this. This one's actually made for a bracelet. I'm sorry, for a strap. So you would stick the tongue end of the strap in there, put that prong to the hole. Your other end attaches like a buckle with a spring bar, closes shut. Here's the mechanism at work. You squeeze these buttons, that squeezes these arms. They have these flanges on them, which get caught underneath here. I'm not sure. It feels pretty secure. I don't know if that I could force this open. I can't, but if I made 500 of these, what percentage would be failing out in the field? I don't know. Not real crazy about that. So this one is a maybe if I made a big, thick diver. Otherwise, most of these are a pass. Back here, I asked them to send me this bracelet. First off, I absolutely hate the clasp they put on it. I don't like this sort of pounded tin look. This button is even more of that. Feels just kind of flimsy. It's a real thin metal in here. So I hate that clasp. I would use something different. Bracelet links are a little bit thin, but we could get those thicker. I like it overall. It's a nice looking bracelet. Kind of looks like an Omega Seamaster. These are actually individually articulated middle links. It's not a fake 3-link. It's a real 3-link. It did come with folded end links, which not fun. I would have them make those solid. There's a couple problems with it though. Even though these middle links are individually articulated, there's a lot of them that are kinking up and don't want to move. So that's just not good. The bigger problem is here at the end. I don't know if you can make that out, but a lot of daylight. And it's the same on both sides of this clasp. So it looks like, for whatever reason, something to do with the links on either side of the clasp, that's where that gap appears, but it's uneven compared to the rest of the bracelet. So decent looking bracelet, seems well made enough. All of these little joints, all the transitions between the links, they're all well made and well rounded. I like that the bottom surface of the link is rounded. That's good for comfort, but I'm not crazy about this articulation and how these links are sticking to each other. I give that bracelet a pass. The company does make some nice stuff, though. They have, besides that one clasp I showed you, they make this bracelet sizing tools. Usually these are plastic. You get them for $4 on Amazon. This one's metal, anodized steel, completely threaded arm. This one feels really secure, so I like that a lot. I imagine this might go for 15 or 20 bucks online. If you can find one of these online, buy it. Well-made piece of equipment there. I also got them to send me these spring bar tweezers. I recently bought a set of these from Esslinger for about 90 bucks. These are about half of that wholesale from the factory. So you would think they'd be nice quality at that price, but they're really not. That seam there is horrible, and it's horrible on both sides. Just really crappy metalworking. So I'm going to give these a pass. I'm probably going to end up giving these to my watchmaker. I don't know if he has a set of these, but I like the ones from Esslinger that I got a little bit better. So just kind of gives you guys a window into my world. That's one of the things I do when I'm not working on everything else. I try to find little ways to improve. But for now, I'm still happy with this clasp we've been using for a long time. It's well made, it works well, it's a good size, and it's good value. I'm pretty happy with these expansion clasps we've been using on the last couple of models. I have talked to my factory about rounding these corners so they're less sharp and aren't doing any damage to anybody. I'll think about this clasp for the future. If I make a big chunky diver again and I don't want to do the expansion clasp, this one is actually about the same size. So, but it's a well-made piece, feels really substantial, and I love this, chamfered corner here. So anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for taking a look. Hopefully it gives you some sense of one of the things I do to try to improve quality any way we can. Take care, guys. See you online.